Services Secretary RFK Jr. today moving to phase out the remaining 8 artificial dyes from America's food supply. The health secretary proposing to eliminate the petroleum-based dyes that are found in things like cereal, ice cream, snacks, and more, and he wants this done within 2 years. The secretary making the announcement in Washington, and here's what he said just a short time ago.
I was talking with my staff about these petroleum-based dyes, and I said if they want to add petroleum, if they want to eat petroleum, they ought to add it themselves at home.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Perseverance Mindset Podcast. I am your host, as you know me, John Zedzer, and welcome back to another vital, eye-opening episode here on our show. Welcoming you to our famous Dialogue Den, where bold voices challenge broken systems and truth has a seat at the table here in our Dialogue Den. So we're coming to you again to have some groundbreaking announcements. So today we are pulling back that curtain of truth on something that affects every single one of us, every day, every hour, every year. The food we eat, and more importantly, what's being added to it without our knowledge, our consent, and many of the companies participating in this directly. Last month on April 22nd, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. shared a conversation he had with food industry leaders about the removal of petroleum-based food dyes. You heard that right, petroleum-based food dyes. And what he said was chilling. And you heard just what RFK Jr. had said. If you want to add petroleum to your food and those types of ingredients, they ought to add it to themselves. They ought to add it to their foods at home, but they shouldn't be feeding it to the rest of us without our knowledge or our consent. Very powerful, as you just heard. And this is honest. This is brutally honest, as RFK Jr. is serving as Secretary of HHS. So today we're tracing the journey of our food system from fresh to local to fake and to toxic. We already had a podcast episode about the toxins and dangerous chemicals in our food. Now we're talking about how even fast food from the 1960s was healthier than most of the homemade meals today, and why so many of us are sick, tired, inflamed, confused about what's actually safe to eat. So we're going to get into all that today. So we'll expose synthetic dyes, the regulatory failures, and the industry's banking on us being too distracted by the cheaper prices to look at the labels on the products, but not here, not in the Dialogue Den, not with you, our perseverance pioneers. So let's rewind. A few generations ago, food was real, right? People harvested from backyard victory gardens, if you're old enough to remember that. Milk came straight from the local farms, from the milkman, and kids grew up eating meals made from scratch, not purchasing a part of it, fully made from scratch. There were no artificial sweeteners, no preservatives that added shelf life to nutrients, again, enhancing that ROI from these companies that are putting out these products with petroleum-based ingredients. It wasn't, quote unquote, organic. It didn't need to be. Food was just food. And yes, even fast food hit the scene in the 90s and 1960s, but it was still made from very basic ingredients that are better than what we have today. It was still made from those basic ingredients. A burger was beef, not pink slime. Fries were cooked in beef tallow, not industrial seed oils, which are some of the worst things you can cook with. Soda had real sugar, not high fructose corn syrup, which everyone is aware of that term today. With this health revolution that's been happening since the 2000s, we recently talked about, soda. We talked about the cola wars, just people getting healthier in what they eat and what they consume, and asking what is in the food we eat. So fast forward that to today. Even our traditional foods are loaded with preservatives, dyes, chemical additives. Whether you know it or not, a box mac and cheese dinner today has more lab ingredients than a science kit. You heard that correctly. We've gone from farm to table, to factory to fork, and we're paying for it with our health. We're paying to it with our healthcare. We're paying for it in so many ways we can't begin to understand yet. And so here's what's at stake. Currently, the HHS Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., new in this position, has been railing against big food, big pharma, calling them out for creating, then profiting of America's chronic disease epidemic, which it is, regardless of what you think. It is an epidemic in this country. He said it over and over and over. The food we eat is being packaged with toxins, and the medical system is built to manage symptoms, not to fix the rot in what's actually getting the root of all these problems and illnesses. It's made to treat people sick, keep people sick, to help many other industries. We've been seeing unprecedented rises in childhood ADHD, food allergies, disorders, gut dysfunction, mood disorders, much more than that, and also cancers that are hitting younger and younger. So the question is, what's changed? And the biggest thing that has changed from since the 50s, the 60s, 70s is the food that we consume, the food that we eat. So let's get into that and talk about synthetic food dyes. Again, like we were mentioning, these are petroleum-based added chemicals. They're added to everything from breakfast cereals to kids' vitamins. That's right, kids' vitamins. Here's the rundown. Red dye number 40. It's linked to hyperactivity and potential cancer risk. Yellow dyes number 5 and 6 can cause hives, asthma, migraines. Blue 1 and 2, found in candy, toothpaste. Blue 2 may cause brain tumors in animals. So what do you think that's going to do to us? Brain tumors in animals. Sounds very interesting, right? Green number 3, once popular in mint products, now heavily restricted everywhere. Orange B, used in hot dog casings. Citrus red dye number 2, used in dye orange peels. Yep, the outside of the orange. Great, tasty fruit and vegetable, right? Yeah, there's red dye in those vegetables. So these dyes go all the way back to the early 1900s, originally made from coal tar. You heard that correctly, coal tar. They later transitioned to petroleum-based production, again, making things efficient, but not doing things to benefit the consumer, doing things to benefit the company. But Europe banned many of these ingredients and all these dyes that we're talking about, not just recently, decades ago. What does that tell you? In the US, they stayed in our food because they were cheap. People want cheap stuff because they made products to be more fun, because Big Food knew how to market and Big Pharma stood ready to treat the fallout and the symptoms of the customers that were being created. And getting into it, here's what's changed finally. The U.S. has announced that over the next 2 years, recently from that announcement you just heard, they're beginning to phase out these dyes. FDC blue numbers 1 and 2, green number 3, red number 40, yellow number 5 and 6. And the FDA has confirmed it will begin revoking authorization for orange B and citrus red dye number 2. This is a huge monumental step in the right direction. But let's not pretend it's enough. This is only a start. We're finding this out now. People have been saying these things for years. And we applaud RFK Jr. for doing this, because for decades, our children have been developing, their brains. We're being exposed to chemicals we now admit are dangerous after the fact. We were told they were safe then, but we had never tested the way that we should have. At one point in time, cigarettes were made to cure the common cold, to cure a sore throat. Look it up. These are facts. But they were never meant for the human body. All these chemicals, just for product appeal and direct profit, really gets you asking questions, right? That's right. And this is where we come in, Perseverance Pioneers. You don't need a PhD to protect your family. You just need to be aware of what's out there. Here's what you can do. Read the labels. If it sounds like a science experiment, if you might need help pronouncing the actual word because it's 13 or 14 letters wrong, really think about putting that into your body. Shop fresh, shop local, seasonal, cook more meals at home. Just cooking at home, you could actually see what's in the ingredient and know exactly what you're consuming. Reject dyes, preservatives, high fructose corn syrup. I can't stress this enough. It's in almost everything. And most importantly, teach your kids, your family, your friend, your husband, your wife, your spouse, significant other. Let's not forget what RFK Jr. said. If they want to eat petroleum, These executives, these high-end people in these smoke-filled rooms, they can add it at their houses. They can put it into their food, but don't feed it to all of us without our knowledge, without our consent, and knowing unintentionally what we are doing to our bodies. This is not radical. It's not. It's common sense. We deserve to know what we're putting in our bodies from the food that we are consuming. Period. We deserve food that fuels us, not preps us for the next sick care doctor visit. This is more of a food issue. It's much more than that. It's about sovereignty. It's about independence over our health, our homestead, and our future, and a country at large. It's not about letting corporations write the rules about what's safe for you. We always have to challenge, we have to think. It's about you realizing that you have more power over what you consume into your body than you think. Here at the Perseverance Mindset Podcast, we don't settle. We ask the questions. We get to the real truth. We don't blindly trust a bill of goods that's sold to us. We dig in, we question, and we seek to find the truth. When agencies don't protect us and haven't for a very long time, we protect each other. So thank you for joining me on this episode of the Perseverance Mindset Podcast, live from our famous Dialogue Den. If this opened your eyes, if you have more questions about this, share, comment below, subscribe to our show. For many more conversations like this, let's get people talking. And above all else, read those labels, ask those questions, and keep pushing forward. This is John Zadzura, the Perseverance Mindset Podcast, signing off.